Hello to everybody in the DKS Synth Lab. It's awesome to talk with the guys today about synthesizers. They've been so, this journey of mine with electronic music and synthesizers and keyboards has been such a big part of my life. So I'm so happy to share my experience with everybody, and I'm grateful to the guys today for bringing me on to the club and welcoming me. Maybe I can be an honorary member of the club.
So thank you, Jordan. The first question for you is, what's your story with synths?
What's my story with synthesizers?
Yes.
Oh, well, I guess it's a pretty big story. How much time do you guys have? Wait a minute, let me look at my watch. Well, I started my life just playing the acoustic piano.
Yeah.
And when I was about 17 years old or so, some friends came over to my house and they were carrying a synthesizer, an old Moog Sonic 5, I believe. And it was the first time I had ever seen such a thing. So I put it down literally in my room. All my friends came in, I put on the headphones and I was playing it. And I was thinking, oh my God, this is amazing. Because what blew my mind was that you could change the pitch. Because I never played a keyboard where you could change the pitch before. So I was like, this is incredible. So that, and then of course I discovered the filter knob first thing. So, and that also was the whole awakening. So yeah, that's where it started. And then I started to listen to some of the music that was, being used, like things like Rick Wakeman and Patrick Moraz and all these things. And it really was a very important discovery in my life because I was on the road to being a classical pianist.
Okay.
So it kind of changed everything. Yeah.
So very, very different.
Very different.
What future do you see for synthesizers? So back in the days, we have totally game changer synths like the Big 7 M1, Oasis, Kronos. So you think we will see a new game changers like that synth in next future?
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with the mechanism for control. You see things like a Rolly C board or all kinds of interesting inventions that offer new ways to kind of like control the synthesizers. And what's interesting about that is these ways bring the expression more to the organic nature of who we are as people. So there's a lot to be said about this journey from synthesizers where we started, which didn't even have like velocity control or the ability to do anything with expression, to like now where there's a lot of expression that's possible. But I think that connection is only getting greater with what's being developed and with technology. There used to be, before you guys were born, there was a big thing about, synthesizers are not expressive. They're cold, they're electronic instruments. It's not like a violin or a piano. And maybe somebody could still say that, but it's harder to really allow that argument to exist. Because as we know, synthesizers can be incredibly expressive, right? I mean, it's just come such a long way. There's so many different kinds of synthesis and control. But I think a lot of that is where we're going to see a lot of changes, a lot of things that get better and better for our experience. So yeah.
Okay, so who or what influenced you in synthesis sound design world?
Yeah, so well, when I was growing up, as far as synthesis goes, I mean, I was exposed to people like Tomita, doing incredible things with the old modular synthesizers, and going way beyond what anybody thought that a synthesizer could really even do musically, because he had incredible dynamics and all this incredible stuff. And then I was also exposed to groups like Tangerine Dream.
Tangerine Dreams.
Yeah. Doing albums like Phaedra or Rubicon, that kind of thing. And that was very influential to me with the way I thought about synthesizers, but also some of the guys that were coming from a more classical approach, like somebody like a Morton Subotnick. I don't know if you ever heard of Morton Subotnick.
And Jan Hammer. How much about this?
Jan Hammer doing his incredible leads. The person who was playing synth leads that really blew my mind was the early Patrick Moraz recordings, like on the album Refugee.
Yes.
There was a song called Someday. It was a ballad, but in the middle of the song, there was this incredible lead, just really cool fan lead that I was like, oh my God, this is so awesome. How's he doing that? So I had to figure it out.
After that, you started with the workstation to program your own sound.
Yeah, so I was always into programming my own sounds. I mean, my first synthesizer was a Minimoog. When I bought one, and the Minimoog meant everything to me. And I wouldn't play it the standard way. I would play it with one hand on the keyboard and one hand on all the knobs, moving always. But I was also not playing such standard music when I first started playing Minimoog. I was more interested in all these cool sounds that they could do. So that was my approach, and very influenced again by like Tangerine Dream and stuff like that. But my music was different than that, because I always felt like Tangerine Dream, as great as they were a little bit limited in what they could do, like on the keyboard, and the patterns were somewhat simple for my taste. So I was kind of discovering and opening up other ideas with playing riffs and moving the knobs. And I had a very spacey band back then. It was called Complex. We never recorded, but we would play on late night radio shows, like college radio shows, and do these experiences, be like going on a little bit of a space voyage to our crazy sounds. So, that's kind of like one of the things that I enjoyed doing when I made the shift from classical music to synthesizer. Really going like not even like synth leads or that, like I was more into like the spacey part of it. And of course, the other stuff, the prog music was also coming into my life. And so I was kind of blending those ideas together a little bit and figuring out, the different things I wanted to do. But so I had a Minimoog first, and then I added Taurus bass pedals. So my first system, so the order of events was Minimoog, then I had Minimoog and Taurus bass pedals only, and then I got an ARP string machine. And I remember the feeling when I had that system, the Minimoog on top, the ARP string machine, and the pedal floor, and I felt like, oh my God, this is incredible. Like this, I can rule the world. The sonic world is mine with this incredible system.
Great.
And of course, over the years, a lot of things changed, and I got other synthesizers, and and one other thing I'll say about all that before your next question is that I never considered myself a technical person. I was never coming from that kind of headspace, but I love the sounds, and I love the feeling of changing the sounds. And so I would always take whatever time it took to find out how to make the sound that was in my head.
Okay.
And when I learned the Minimoog, I didn't know what any of the writing on the panel meant. I didn't know what an LFO was. I didn't know what a filter was. I didn't know what oscillators were. But what I did figure out was if I moved this knob and I moved this knob, it would make a certain sound. So I knew every combination of every knob, what it would do to the sound. And it was very organic, because with all those knobs, you didn't have to know what the things meant. All you needed to know is you turn this, you move that, you change this, and it was all. So when I started to work for Korg as a product specialist some years into it, then I needed to learn what the words meant.
Okay.
I learned what an oscillator was, and what a filter was, and what a waveform was, and ADSR and modulation, and I just kind of filled in the blanks as they would say, to what I was doing organically with the synthesizer.
Okay.
My next question is, what's the most significant synth in your life? But I think is the Minimoog.
The most significant synthesizer?
Yeah.
Yeah, it has to be the Minimoog, because that changed my life, and showed me so much about synthesizers.
Okay. Can you describe all your new rig for live?
Yeah, sure. It's very simple, actually, this tour, because I'm not using a lot of extra stuff. I depend mostly on the Korg Kronos.
Okay.
It's been what I would call like a workhorse for me. For a couple different reasons. One is that I've been using Korg gear now for some years, and I've got my whole library of Jordan sounds on it. So I keep, every time we record and tour, I keep adding to that library, hoping that my sample memory doesn't explode. But I will sometimes get rid of certain things, like to make more room for new sounds that I need to put in. I'll get rid of things like, some of the sound effects that we now run from the sound engineer's rig that I don't need to. In the old days, I would hit all the sound effects like on a low key, even if it was some spoken word thing, I would be playing them. But more recently, it's more that those come from somewhere else. So I don't need those in my machine. So I was able to clear up some space and allow myself to sample some of the cool things that I need to, have in the machine. Like, this album, I was using some of the Spitfire strings and brass, and, I was using, what's the company? 8DO is the name of the company, and they have this incredible 66 trombone library. So I sampled in some of that, and so I've got in that Kronos not only like the sounds that I made through the synthesis on there, like the sounds that are very like grungy and powerful and dirty, like distorted, but I've also got the samples that I need from the various libraries that help me to materialize these these things that I've done on the recordings. Yeah, so it's basically that, and then I use, I have my keytar also, and that's a Roland Axe Edge, but it's connected to an offstage Kronos.
Okay.
As well. So I'm just playing like my lead sounds and some stuff like that through it, but I don't connect it to the main Kronos because I don't want odd MIDI messages going to the music for everything else to kind of keep it away. So, and then in addition to that, I have my iPad on the stage, and I'm using my GeoShred app for the beautiful cello sound that's in the title track of "View from the Top of the World." And I also have been using a little bit of my new app called Sample Wiz 2 for some effects in the set as well. And that's kind of it.
Okay. The two Kronos are not connected.
No.
Okay.
Separate.
Okay.
Hello to everybody in the DKS Synth Lab. It's awesome to talk with the guys today about synthesizers. They've been so, this journey of mine with electronic music and synthesizers and keyboards has been such a big part of my life. So I'm so happy to share my experience with everybody, and I'm grateful to the guys today for bringing me on to the club and welcoming me. Maybe I can be an honorary member of the club. And hopefully, you guys will come out and see Dream Theater when we come to Italy and when we tour in Europe and the rest of our touring cycle.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jordan.
We see us in Milano in Assago.
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely. Okay. Well, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Jordan.
Have a nice day.
Have a nice day.
Bye.
Bye.